Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with classic Doctor Who. Last time we started off The Wheel in Space. What was that one about?
Well, the TARDIS landed inside of a spaceship, but it didn't seem to be anybody in control. There was some kind of weird little robot that was controlling things, but they knocked it out. Then they realized that the spaceship was heading towards the space station, this wheel in space basically. But the space station thought that this, because they were millions of miles off course, that they were a threat of some kind. But some of the astronauts from the space station managed to rescue the Doctor and Jamie, brought them on board, where they meet, what's her name?
Zoe,
who is obviously going to be the next companion.
Yeah.
Charming young girl, very, very intelligent. But then these bubbles, what look like bubbles from the spaceship, come over and they penetrate the hull of the wheel in space. We don't know what's going on. And then suddenly inside the space station we see the Cybermats, and we went, oh no, it's the Cybermen. And sure enough, one of the last shots is we see the Cybermen in the other spacecraft getting ready to, one supposes, invade the space station, the wheel in space.
Yes.
I think that's it. Did I miss anything?
No, that's it. That is the entire thing. So today, we have the last 3 episodes of The Wheel in Space. This is also the last of Season 5.
Oh.
So we will be 5 seasons down. And let's see, there's 26 in Classic Doctor Who, so that means
21 to go.
21 to go.
And we've covered 5 seasons in under 2 years.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah.
It's probably about a year and a half, all things considered. Yeah. So, a year and a half to get through 5 seasons, which isn't too bad. And I know that eventually the seasons will start getting a little shorter. So,
because New Who don't ever last as long as these do they?
Well, no, because this one, obviously, because they're it's 7 serials, but obviously split up with basically a year's worth of episodes for each one. Now, mostly a normal season of new Doctor Who is 13 episodes, and those are normal standard 45-minute length episodes. So actually lately they've been getting a bit shorter. I know that the 13th Doctor's seasons are only 10 episodes instead of 13, and the next one that's going to come out is only going to be 8 episodes long. Because of everything that happened with the pandemic and everything. So, but yeah. So, hopefully we will... I don't know how long it's really going to take. I think I did map it out once. If I can find my schedule, I did technically map out how long it should take to get through Classic Doctor Who. So, let me... zoom in. Let's see. Let's see. So it would be... So here's Doctor Who the movie, which would be a rewatch, which would be February of 2024. 2024. That's when we should be caught up with Classic Doctor Who.
So 3 more years.
Yes.
We can do this.
And then... because this is apparently we apparently agreed, or kind of agreed, or it's just assumed that after we go through Classic Doctor Who, we're going to go through New Doctor Who with you. And I mapped that out too.
I should be totally gray by then.
Yeah. Let's see. So going to the latest episode, which is the Series 13 Christmas special, that will take us through August of... Does that still say 2024?
It just says 8/1. I can't see any.
Oh, you know what? This isn't correct. Yeah. Okay, never mind. I haven't fully mapped it. Yeah, all of that. I can see it now. It's completely wrong, but still. Well, okay, we can say it'll take... 3 years to get through the rest of Classic Doctor Who. It's taken me 3 years to get through New Doctor Who. I started in February of 2018, and I'm going to be finally caught up with Doctor Who in June. So,
but you, again, if you're doing one 45-minute episode a week, see, we're doing 3 30-minute episodes a week, so
yeah,
you should be doing 2 to the time that we do 3 here.
Oh, I'm sure the people at home would love if I had done 2 this entire time. But no such luck.
They're mostly self-contained, aren't they? So
yeah,
they don't do like this and have a 6-part.
No, pretty much never. Like occasionally you'll get a 2-parter, but that's about it. I will say though, part of me going through modern Doctor Who was also when we would take I would take a month break for us to do classic Doctor Who. So it's not it's around 3 years basically. So, but anyway. I have this sneaking suspicion that all 3 of these episodes today are Recon episodes. So, yeah. And then I think after this, it's only 1 more episode that's heavy Recons. So yeah, we should just sort of power right on through this one.
Okay.
Here we go. For the last episode edit, you haven't seen this yet, but I actually did try to crop the footage to be rounded at the corners.
Yeah.
It was so difficult and it looked so bad that I'm not doing that again.
Well, what are these Cybermen then?
They were once men, human beings like yourself.
This is the first time they don't know about
but now they're
Cybermen.
more robot than man.
You mean half and half?
No, more than that. Their entire bodies are mechanical, and their
More
brains
robot
are being
than man.
treated
See where Lucas got the line.
neurosurgically to remove all human emotions.
Now, oddly enough, these spacesuits look very much like the Russian cosmonauts of the 60s, not of the Americans.
I'm still control of this wheel, and things will be running my way. Any orders to the contrary can come from Earth Central. That's what.
The guy's about to have a stroke.
You convince a man like that?
That X-ray. I think Bill Duggan should see it. Go and find him, will you, Zoe? Isn't he?
I was going to say, how did you convince Robson, but he just sort of went out of commission for a while.
Progress readings on the star Hercules 208 in methane.
How do you do that without moving your lips?
Radar computer readings. Bank A 208.16. Bank B 321.64.
How long has he been on the TARDIS? He doesn't know what a recording is.
Sorry, have I ruined it?
Some people have on the
Chang enters and walks up to Bill and Leo.
Controller said you needed some help. Of course, I've only done 2 watches in a row.
Congratulations. I've done 3. Oh, go and shove off, Leo. Chang and I can handle this.
Chang sounds
I
problematic.
know how to get on the vanadium, don't I?
You see in this failing of his a medical weakness.
Don't you?
Normally, he's more than capable of commanding this station. It's a continuous and merciless responsibility.
Exactly.
I must confess I've been concerned.
Render him unfit for
Jarvis
duty.
shows signs of blocking off his mind. He just can't face the truth.
I know we have a lot of the base under siege stories, but these leaders are all exactly the same.
Yeah.
Well, don't just stand here. Go and grab a dozen sticks. With a bit of luck, we can replace these and reassemble in a couple of hours. Well, go on, chop, chop.
I'm on my way.
Saying chop chop to a guy named Chang is pretty racist.
Unfortunately, the parapsychology unit of this city tends to ignore this aspect in its pupils. Some of them never fully develop their human emotions.
You don't think I'll be like that, do you?
No. No, you seem to have survived their brainwashing techniques remarkably well.
Oh, good.
Now, about these calculations of yours.
And this last one is how we checked everything.
She is really similar to Spock when you stop and think about it.
And the integrated crew is also very Star Trek.
Yeah.
Behind the pair, Cyberman begins descending the stairs.
Alrighty. That's episode 4.
Well, again, the storyline is very good. There's no real padding to it,
Yeah.
like some of the others we've seen.
Yeah.
And they're keeping the Cybermen somewhat in the background, which again kind of enhances the menace of them.
Yeah. I feel like this is the first, I think this is the first time we've ever had, a heavy Recon Cyberman episode. Because even, some of them where there were missing episodes, I think they were animated. So, it's this one specifically that is heavy Recon. So, I'm liking the emphasis on Cybermen basically brainwashing people. Like, I don't think we got too much of that in the last ones.
No.
So, I was also curious if when they were doing the X-ray of the Doctor, they would finally discover that he has two hearts. Because I realized, like, okay, well, we're getting pretty far in, the Troughton era, and, eventually it will come to an end, but pretty sure they have to get going on some of this Time Lord stuff eventually.
I was under the impression that it wasn't until the movie that they mentioned that the Doctor had two hearts.
No, because I think when we watched a third Doctor episode, I think they mentioned it in passing. Like, one of the Time Lords was like, "Oh, well, we'll keep you in our hearts," in our. Although maybe he could have been saying that for multiple people, so I don't know. Maybe. So, yeah, it could be. It could be that, but yeah, I'm still waiting. I also thought too. It's like, okay, we have to get Time Lord stuff soon, I think. And then I also thought, we had an entire other Time Lord with the monk, and we still got nothing about the Doctor and where he's from. Like, they have just kept that a complete mystery. Like, they won't say anything about where he's from for 5 years. So
yeah, that's pretty strange.
Yeah. Of course, it is also just the funny thing of, they haven't said anything, and eventually they're going to start saying some stuff like, all right, he's a Time Lord from Gallifrey, and there's all this stuff. And still, it's a fast and loose sort of continuity of what the Doctor's origin really is. So, I don't know. It's all crazy. And of course, so many different writers trying to do their own things with Time Lords, so...
I suppose we can trust the Doctor.
I'm not sure why I do, but I do. Sealing off the airlocks is good common sense, anyway.
He has a very trusting face.
Cybermen are gradually getting closer to the Doctor and Jamie.
Come on, Henry.
All right.
I want them to, like, meet the Cyber leader, and he's, like, stroking the Cybermat like a cat.
The two Cybermen start to move off and veer about in an irrational way, affected by the sound. Oh, you mean the sonic screwdriver could have done that?
No, because its only purpose is to sonic screws.
By the way, I did read the story that the reason why the sonic screwdriver wasn't used anymore after that episode, that Troughton dropped it into the pipe and they couldn't get it out again.
Oh, they just never made another?
Yeah.
Wow.
Voice of whatever the head cyber thing is sounds very much like those 1960s voice activator things that people who have had their larynx taken out because of cancer use. I had an uncle, a great uncle, my grandmother's brother, who had one of those. And it sounded just like that when he talked.
Jarvis, look at the creature. Show it to him, Zoe.
Zoe proffers up the Cybermen to the near catatonic guard.
It's not true. It's not true.
I've been created for some false kind of existence where only known kinds of emergencies are catered for. Well, what good is that to me? No.
Hey, we're not done yet,
It is pretty strange, because it's like half of the emergencies.
Yeah. Valance pulls a ray blaster on Flanagan. Flanagan swipes Valance away as Laylam tries to club Flanagan from behind, but the Irishman fends off the attacker with a sharp elbow to the gut. The men struggle, scattering piles of equipment as they brawl. Flanagan knocks Valance down to the floor, then he gets the better of Laylam. Another fight that we haven't been able to see, repeatedly slamming the unfortunate man's head into the door.
Man. Don't mess with the Irish,
Laylam manages to
apparently.
spin around Flanagan and pins his arms behind his neck. Valance stares in shock at its dead friend, the cyber control momentarily weakening. The Cyberman enters and bears down on Flanagan.
Ah, dang it. It's like the greatest warrior we've ever seen. Now the Irish brawler works for them.
Thought they were all supposed to have the little metal thing taped to their back.
That is a good point.
You're the only one who knows what it looks like besides me, and I'm much too busy. Besides, it's your fault that it's not. Mine? Well, isn't it? Well, yeah, no.
Have you gone off your head?
Well, she agreed to go.
Well, she'd no right to agree. And you'd no right to let her.
I had to. Jamie will look after her.
Have you any idea of the dangers they'll face between the wheel and the rocket? You sent Zoe and your friend out into an area that's bound to be bombarded with small debris. Quite apart from the radiation and the thermal shock.
But they knew the risk. So he calculated it.
Yes, Zoe calculated it.
Doctor, listen carefully. They're going to poison the air supply. Do you understand? Poison the air supply.
Jen is fully aware of the Cybermen approaching her,
Sectional
bravely
supply.
continues her message regardless.
Get away from there!
Gemma's ray blaster forces the Cybermen back. Gemma makes a dash for the door, but the door opens quickly.
The meteorites! They're heading straight for us!
Hang on a second. Oh, okay. Dr. Corwin from the stills looks like a young Judi Dench.
It's exactly what I was thinking, actually. So, okay, that's episode 5. So, I guess we don't really have like a specific plan that the Cybermen have. It really is just they're going to invade Earth, but why do they need the laser functional and everything?
Yeah, there's whatever the big plan is going to be obviously revealed in the last episode here.
Yeah. I also think, now that I'm thinking about it, this might be the first time that a Cyberman story is more than 4 episodes long. Because we had 10th Planet, there's 10th Planet, Moonbase, Tomb, and now this. And this is the only one that's 6 parts, so that's pretty interesting. I mean, I guess it would make sense if they were trying to use the laser against Earth, and so they're testing it out on meteorites, so...
I wonder if the meteorites are not actually meteorites, but perhaps some kind of conveyor of Cybermen that, you know, the pieces will land on the planet.
Oh, maybe, like...
They're actually counting on the humans to blast them apart so that they will then land on Earth.
Maybe. Could be something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really sure about that, and it is one of those where it's like, oh yeah, we don't really know their plan yet. Well, we have 1 more episode, so they better say something. Is this a regular episode?
Looks like it.
Oh my gosh.
Look!
I could have sworn this one would have been Recon too.
They're heading straight for us!
Meteorites are not usually completely round.
Yeah. They're also on fire, but that's okay.
The screen's clear, sir. We've done it.
Like Space Invaders.
No.
Any signs
Defenders.
of Jamie, Zoe?
Well, oh no, Jarvis, no.
The meteorites have been destroyed. Now we will take over. You have been
Lava lamps in the
searched
background.
the capsule
Well.
in- The data will be computed.
No.
I've heard data and data, but never data.
Well,
Leo Ryan, communications officer.
Why was the communications officer in charge of firing the laser?
Jarvis
good
Bennett.
point.
Why did you order Duggan to destroy radio communication with the Earth? After all, that is why you want possession of the wheel, isn't it?
You know our ways.
That doesn't answer my question.
He was instructed to destroy only the transmitting complex.
Oh, I see. How interesting. Yes, of course. And presumably your large spaceship holds your invasion fleet, and the smaller ships can only enter the Earth's atmosphere by homing on a radio beam.
Brain fry.
well, he's not going to fall for that.
The menacing Cybermen slowly walking towards the camera scene. Didn't we see that before on the moon base?
Yeah.
Is that the plastic?
I would assume so. Oh, they're literally walking through space. That looks really silly.
Fire!
Well, it was quick at least. Kick him! Oh, jeez. That was crazy. I guess they were fighting against the air leaving the airlock, too.
Yes, the old jump start with the Mercury.
Yeah, look at those painted on round things.
Well, what are you going to do?
I'm going to show Zoe the sort of thing that she may be in for.
Thought patterns?
Oh boy.
Yes.
We get a recap at the end of the season. Well, kind of. Alrighty. You don't think that... No, I was gonna say you don't think that leads into a Dalek story next, but...
I wouldn't think so.
I think we're still on break for a Dalek story. I mean, obviously, yes, that was footage from Evil of the Daleks,
Yeah.
but... It's a bit of a strange one. It's like, well, alright, who... we gotta tell you what you could be in for. Well, there's Daleks... Okay, do you want to come or not?
Well, she's already met the Cybermen.
Yeah.
There isn't another recurring one other than the meddling monk.
Yeah, or I guess the intelligence is the only other one. So, yeah, alright, that is the end of the 5th season of Doctor Who.
Well, they certainly tied it up neatly, but it seemed to me somewhat rushed.
It's not the Cybermen's greatest plan. Like, every other episode, like, they have I don't know, their plan is better, they have a bit more of a presence, too. Like, this one was more of the typical base under siege story, I guess. So, with a very simple, well, they want to go invade the Earth. Well, okay, then. That's just about it. Yeah. So
Now again, it ties it up neatly. There's no... loose threads or anything, but it didn't seem to live up to the dramatic ending that they were suggesting, in my opinion. But I mean, it's good. I still liked it. Certainly better than some of the other stuff that we've seen.
Yeah. So it's probably like, of the 4 Cyberman stories we've had, it's probably a comfortable 4th place, I would say. So probably, I mean, if you try ranking them, then it gets all complicated and stuff. So. Like, maybe... So we've had 10th Planet, Moon Base, Tomb of the Cybermen, and now The Wheel in Space. So... I don't know. Ranking things is very difficult to do.
Here's the thing. I thought the special effects in Moon Base were a little bit better. This one, especially the destruction of the Cyberman ship there at the end, that again, seemed a little rushed.
Yeah. Well, and remember, they also did the sort of... use a spray or whatever to beat the Cybermen in that one, because it was Polly that like created the melting thing, and then you get all they're melting, and all the pus comes out and everything, and they're all dramatic and stuff. This time around, it was just a little spray, and then they just sort of were flung out of the airlock. It took me a little while to realize, like, oh, they're fighting against the wind that's, flowing out of the airlock and stuff. And
now, here's the thing. If there are no organic components anymore, the Cybermen were coming through space to get to the wheel. If they're blown out into space, they're not dead. They're just floating around out there.
Yeah. Now, yes, that is true. I would wonder, though, because they said they reactivated the force field, I think. So maybe they were zapped and then they were flung out, but it's entirely possible that those, like, 3 or 4 that we saw at the end there could possibly still be alive.
Now, that being said, if they get caught into any planet's gravitational pull, especially the Earth or wherever they are, they would certainly burn up on re-entry, because they would reach a certain velocity where they would, like all meteorites, just be burned to a cinder, basically. So so I don't know. It just a nagging little end thought there.
And we say, like, okay, this is sort of a comfortable 4th place for the Cyberman stories. It's kind of it's not really a high note to go out on the 5th season, like, all right, we've gotten to 5 years of doing this show. So many things have happened. All right, how do we end, the first 5 years? Here's the wheel in space. It's all right. It's not bad. It's just one of those, like, and we've had a lot of good ones in season 5 as well. So
I think right up until the last episode, the writing was very, very good. And again, it's not disappointing. It's just it didn't give the push that I thought it would really kind of end it on a high note.
Yeah. So I don't know, because the first thing to briefly talk about, because there's not a lot to talk about it, is Jarvis, who he went on with his whole thing about, he doesn't like mysteries and stuff like that. Then he went comatose for a little bit, and then he got up, and then he died. And then that was that.
Yeah, I understand they needed him to basically be the impediment to saving the station in the first couple of episodes, but now, one assumes that towards the end he's sacrificing himself like Dr. Corwin did, but that didn't really play it as well as they thought it would. Yeah.
Well, and also the fact that it didn't seem to do anything. Like, he died, and then they just sort of moved on with the plot. So, and it's so strange because we've had too many of these, the guy in charge who doesn't, he's stopping whatever's happening. And the 3 big ones that I can think of, at least, are Clint from the Ice Warriors, Robson from Fury from the Deep, and now Jarvis. And Robson, he kind of got a little grating, but he was grating for good reason. That was part of his character. And all in all, he did, play a part in, the plot, and, there was a purpose for him being there until he eventually, was saved and he came around and everything. But Jarvis really is just we can't have the Doctor just go and start doing everything immediately, so we need someone to sort of stop his progress. Okay, but we can't have Jarvis, I guess we can't have him come around, like... It is one of those weird things, because it's like, well, but you could do that, because Clint sort of did that. Like, even though he still, down to the end, had his objections, and, was like, oh, we have to trust the computer and stuff like that, but he still was more accommodating and, was helping with everything with the Doctor, while still maintaining his whole, we have to believe in the computer.
Yeah.
So
now, to me, again, it was just a matter of a little bit of writing there. When Jarvis finally comes out of his somewhat comatose state and he realizes, hey, I've screwed this up and I need to go help out. If he would, actually attack the Cyberman, and other than being immediately killed, to get a couple of good licks in, punch through the Cyberman's chest piece there and, do something. But it just seemed, like a somewhat weak ending for him.
Yeah.
Because, again, you want that redemption story, because he has been the stick in the mud the entire first 3 episodes, and then he understands that something's wrong, and, he's taken out of the plot, and then when he comes back, he needs, it's kind of like Gemma who sacrifices herself to say, this is actually happening, believe in the Doctor, you got to do all this, but Jarvis doesn't get that, and that was kind of sad.
Yeah, it's very strange. And also, just when they talk about emergencies, well, see, that's the thing, is this whole thing about emergencies, I don't know if it's just not written well, or if it was just, kind of strange, but he says specifically, I was trained to deal with emergencies. Whatever emergencies there are, I deal with them. That's part of my training. But for some reason, these emergencies didn't include things that you may not understand, or, strange things that are happening that you have to deal with and fix. And then Zoe says that too. It's like, oh, well, I was trained to deal with emergencies that we know about. What about emergencies that you don't know about? That's like half of them. It's like, what kind of training is this that they are getting?
Yeah.
Like,
I think science finally came around to that with Apollo 13. These guys going up, so routine that the launch wasn't even covered. And people just, men going to the moon again? Yeah, we've done that twice already. And then, these three guys just floating towards the moon, and suddenly a hole blows open in the side of their ship, and they say, we've got to fix this, and then realize they don't know how to fix it. And we've seen that film where down on Earth, I think it was Mattingly, the astronaut, says, here's what they have on board. We have to figure out how they can fix it up there using this stuff so that we can then tell them.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know that NASA or any other space agency would have known how to deal with an emergency that was unpredictable.
Yeah.
And I realize, encountering alien life is the most unpredictable thing of all.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, in 1968 going into 1969, there had been emergencies on the ground. We had the Apollo 1 fire that killed the 3 astronauts. So there were, the idea that they're only being trained for things that they know can go wrong seems a little odd.
Yeah. Well, and even part of it with Zoe, I kind of understand. Like, okay, because of her specific logical training and everything, and she was, trained to do all these calculations, like, okay, I could kind of understand. And even, even then when she says, well, I'm not built for, these kinds of emergencies, you could still be like, okay, well, try to apply your training where you can, make calculations based on what you know, figure out how to do this. But Jarvis was just the strangest one, that he just would not accept anything.
Yeah.
Like, he would not accept any sort of mystery that was going on that you had to figure out. And it's like, well, that's the point.
Yeah.
It's like, something will happen. If you don't understand it right away, you have to work to do that. But then he was like, no, I'm not going to do anything. These mysteries don't exist because I was trained that way. And it's like, that's not how the universe works. So it was just sort of a strange thing, and then for that to go nowhere was just strange. Yeah. I'd probably say Jarvis was the weakest part of this story. Yeah. So let's see.
Yeah, but I mean, Dr. Corman and Leo and Tanya, all well-defined characters.
Yeah.
And then Jarvis just does not fit into that mix there.
Yeah, it really feels like they needed someone to make sure the Doctor couldn't just go do things immediately, but then they just didn't know what to do with that character. So, yeah. Let's see. And then speaking of Zoe, we said this during the reaction, she definitely really feels like a Spock kind of character, like, and especially, like, more Spock than even just the other Vulcans because of his whole half-human thing, where, she's saying, like, well, I have all this, very specific training, and, people say I'm very unemotional, but I want to know about this stuff, and I want to understand it, and that honestly probably makes her a perfect candidate to go with them on the TARDIS. So, so that's all really interesting, but it was sort of, we were sitting there, and I was just like, don't listen to McCoy all the time. I mean, don't listen to Leo all the time, Sometimes your logic is good, So, and since this would be 68, maybe by this point, I mean...
No, yeah, I think somebody said it's like even early 68.
Yeah, okay. May 31st, 1968 is when this episode came out. So, 68, I mean, that's 2 years into Star Trek, or at least a year, so...
Well, 66, 67 was the first year, and 67, 68 was the second year.
Yeah,
so this would have been right at the end of the second year. And so, yeah, Spock would have been a worldwide phenomenon by this time, so...
Right. So it's entirely possible that Zoe could be sort of inspired from Spock.
But certainly better looking.
Meh. Wow.
I mean, that seems to be the obvious thing ever since Barbara, is that they're going for these young, good-looking girls. I mean, all of them so far have been very almost predictable in the way they look. To me, what would have been interesting is to take Gemma, to take an older woman who also has the knowledge and the experience, and put her on the TARDIS and see how she works out with them.
Yeah. Well, I was also thinking, like, Leo and Tanya, like, they could be kind of good,
Leo
too.
and Tanya would be a good Ian Barbara combination.
Yeah. Probably, let's just say that anyone on that wheel would probably be, let's say, more useful than our Scott boy, who... so he came in what was it, episode 4 of season 4? Yeah, because 10th Planet was episode 2, then Power of the Daleks, then the Highlanders. So, serial 4 of season 4. This is the end of season 5. The boy hasn't heard a recording yet, apparently. Like, it just never has been brought up of someone recording their voice and then listening to it. And, not only has it been that long in the show, but also in the story, he's got to be on, 2 years on the TARDIS, and they never bring that up. So.
But the thing about Jamie is, being the, young Piper from the Highlands, he does have a sense of adventure. I mean, I perfectly understand why they've got him. He's a good, almost comic foil to the Doctor.
Yeah.
And again, I understand, the demographics and everything, wanting to take Zoe. But again, I wish they'd get back around to an Ian and Barbara type.
Well, I don't... See, I'm not sure, because obviously, we've seen only a little bit of future episodes. So I'm trying to, remember all the companions, but the closest I would say is once we get to the third Doctor, we know, because we've seen a couple episodes, that he's pretty much on Earth with UNIT. So, I imagine we'd sort of get that once we bring in more of the Brigadier and the rest of the members of UNIT. Maybe not Joe. Joe would fit more into our standard companion model, but with the other soldiers at UNIT would probably maybe fit a bit more into that. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just very curious how the entire dynamic of the show is going to change once we get to the third Doctor. Goodbye time travel, goodbye, space, goodbye all that. We're going to be on Earth. If there's space, it's coming to us.
Is that going to be like a Monster of the Week type stuff, do you think?
I
if it's science fiction on Earth, it's going to have to be something alien or something very unusual. Otherwise, it will lose its science fiction appeal.
I would imagine it would be more like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where, it's like, there's all this great stuff going on around there, so now let's just stay on Earth and let's see what's happening here in the smaller things. But instead of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where it's like, okay, here's Coulson, and then he has his team while the Avengers are doing all their stuff. This is, no, we are going to have, our big, if Iron Man was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because it's the Doctor, basically. Yeah. So, but we've still got a whole season before we get to that. So, let's see. I wrote down Flanagan as one of the greatest fighters we've apparently ever had, taking on 2 of them, which was pretty crazy. It took a Cyberman to actually defeat him. Yeah. So, I thought that was interesting.
And yes, one more time, a great fight that we had to see in Recons.
Yes, unfortunately, that one was not... Now, I swear I wrote down in the schedule that all 3 episodes that we watched today were supposed to be Recons. Yeah, completely missing. But episode 6 was a complete episode, so I'm wondering if maybe they found that, recently or something, or maybe I could have just... been mistaken, but I could have sworn that down to episode 6 was in Recon, so I'd be curious if maybe they found that recently and put it up. I know that the reason that the Recons we've been watching are different from the old Recons we were watching is because these are specifically made by BritBox, which is now where we're watching Doctor Who now. So that's why they are a bit different from like when they used to do like a text scroll instead of just the text appearing.
Yeah.
And
now,
why
I have to say, the the text at the bottom, as you heard me several times, it went too fast. I couldn't read it fast enough.
Yeah. So, and I don't get why they keep doing the like tube TV for the recons. Like, that's just kind of weird. And it was so annoying to try to edit that in the last episode that I'm not even going to bother doing that again. So, let's see. Well, we had Gemma going out like a boss, making sure all that information got there. Didn't care that there was a Cyberman there. That was cool. So,
and didn't someone give her some kind of gun? It strikes me as odd that she didn't use it.
I think she did use it, but either it didn't kill the Cyberman, or there was another one, or something like. I think at one point she does use it after she talks to the doctor, but she just ends up she ends up dying anyway. Well, it's entirely possible that you missed it because apparently last time there is another version of the Recons where like they cut out Jamie destroying the servo robot, and so someone on Twitter asked me if we watched that version or the one where they show that scene, and I said, well, we must watch the one where they cut out that scene because I don't really remember it. And someone checked and was like, no, that's in the BritBox version. You watched that. I was like, oh, well, it's entirely possible. I just completely forgot that happened. So I still don't remember Jamie destroying the servo robot. So
not really, no.
Yeah, but apparently he did. So it's entirely possible that you just forgot that she used it. It's also in Recon. It's harder to remember things in Recons.
Yeah.
So soon we will be done. So, in fact, how much do we have left? Dominators is good. Mind Robber is good. Invasion is good. Crotons is good. Seeds of Death is good. And, okay. So actually, we're not going to get any recons until the Space Pirates. And I believe that is the last one. So that's towards the end of Season 6. So it's going to be a while before we have to do recons again. And then that will be the last of the recons. So we're almost there. Almost there. I wrote down the risk that the Doctor took in sending Jamie and Zoe over to the spaceship. And I thought that was interesting how, they were saying like, oh, well, you risk their lives to, just get this one thing. And he said, well, it's very dangerous. It's entirely possible that they could die, but we had to risk it. It's their lives versus basically, millions upon millions of lives. And I thought that was interesting because we've kind of, I don't know, like the second Doctor has been kind of interesting in the approach he takes to some of these situations. And I don't know how many other Doctors would sort of take that risk. And because they emphasize the risk of that, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. But, I mean, the thing is, the only two people who would recognize the time vector generator, if that's what it was called,
yes,
were the Doctor and Jamie, and the Doctor had to stay behind, so it's basically, Jamie, you have to risk it, and if you fail, we're all going to die.
Yeah, and he did trust Zoe's calculations in order to get them over there, so it wasn't a, there's a 5% chance they'll actually make it. It was a, the odds are good. It is very dangerous, but if everything goes the way Zoe calculated it, it should work. But I did find that interesting, because that is a pretty big risk of losing the two of them. So, let's see. We had the whole thing was. The whole thing basically is that they were trying to get the wheel so that they could use it to conquer the Earth, basically, the Cybermen. And they said something about, like, they had to knock out the radio so that they could have, what was it, like, they had smaller ships to actually home in on the Earth's radio signal. So, it was something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting talk between the Doctor and the Cybermen there. I don't fully remember everything they said, so but I thought that was all interesting. And then it was just an interesting sort of back and forth between like these two great minds, especially because the Doctor is the only one who would really be able to do that with the Cybermen. And it was really cool when it's like, okay, we have to go through everyone on the wheel, and it's like, no, it can't be this, and then they get to the Doctor, and it's like, all right, what's his name? And it's just the Doctor. That's his name? Okay, we know this guy. We know who this is. That's like if the Daleks, saw the Doctor, they immediately know we know this guy, he's a threat, he must be destroyed. So, I thought that was really interesting. And then we had the fight at the airlock. I'm glad they were able actually to, I guess, cure people of the brainwashing by the Cybermen by just getting the thing in there. Then they're good. Because I feel like so many times we've had, well, I was going to say so many times we've had like, oh, well, they've been taken over. Well, they're dead. Nothing we can do about that. Although, last time we did have them, like, being taken over by the seaweed and then they were cured. So, yeah. And then the fight at the airlock, it's not the greatest fight in the world, but...
Yeah, again, since they brought Flanagan back, you think that, he'd get a chance to, in zero gravity or no air or whatever, to go over and, kick one in the cyber crotch or something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they probably protects them down there, so... Anyway. And then the last thing I wrote down is we're taking Zoe with us. It's interesting, it wasn't just an immediate, like, oh, I want to come with you. Well, all right then. I like that it was a bit more like, well, let's think about this. Are you really sure you want to do that? Here's Daleks. Now do you really want to join us? So, but I mean, once you've gotten past the Cybermen, the Daleks aren't too much worse if you can survive them too. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
I got nothing.
All right. Well,
so who's up next?
What is the next episode? Is The Dominators, which is a 5-part story. So what we'll do is we are still going to split it up like normal. So next time around, we'll be watching the first 3 parts of The Dominators, and then the next week we'll watch the final 2 parts of The Dominators. And we've got a couple 5-parters. Okay, maybe not. Maybe like 2.
8-parter there.
Yes. The Invasion is 8 parts. The Crotons is our only 4-parter. Then we've got a 6-parter, a 6-parter, and then a 10-parter. So, yeah. But next time, for the 5-parters, we'll split those still into 2 videos, because we don't want to sit here for 5 episodes.
No, that's a bit long.
Yeah, 4 really is the limit, so...
All right.
But yeah, that is basically it. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of our classic Doctor Who reactions, you can click on the playlist, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon and follow me on social media, links below in the description. See you guys later.